What's up, guys? Josh Law here with the Card Guys, and today I'm going to be bringing to you guys some pretty unique content. Uh, Full disclaimer: this is going to be a very, very long and very, very in-depth video on Dorinthea. So if you are not into very, very long, very, very in-depth videos about Dorinthea, this may not be the video for you. There's tons of other things that you can watch on YouTube, so have fun. But for those of you that want to stick around, let me tell you about what you're going to be getting into. So I have a friend. His name is Basil, and he's been playing Dorinthea for quite a long time. He's played a little bit of Prism, but he's really been playing Dory for quite a while. If you are part of the Purple Discord, you know him as Inertia. Talks quite a lot in that channel, and I reached out to him. He's been having some trouble with Guardian matchups, and he didn't really have the greatest RTN season, and he's been feeling a little lost. And so I reached out to him, and I was like, let's talk about your list. Let's let me ask you some questions about your list. See if we can improve it in some ways. Take a look at my list, give some comparisons, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both lists. And then we proceeded to play a couple games. We played against Azuri, and we played against Lexi. And both of those opponents came at us with some unconventional strategies. So those were pretty interesting games. So we talked about the list. We talked about our lines during the game. And I think this is an interesting video because, when two people that are mains of a hero come together, they may not agree on a lot of things. I have a friend, he goes by the screen name NXI. Very, very good Dorinthea player. We don't agree on a lot of things. But just being able to talk to another player of a main allows you to brainstorm a lot of things, allows you to see a lot of things that you can improve. Like, for example, the difference between having Oasis and Blue Shunt and not having Oasis and Blue Shunt is actually pretty massive against Azuri. It allows him to execute a game plan that my deck actually can't execute very well because I only have 3 Shunts and 3 Sinks. So, just, talking with other mains and just getting exposed to things really does help your depth and understanding of the game. And there's lots of things that you can learn even after thousands of games between us. There's still things that we can learn. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you like it, please let us know. We'll keep doing some more of it. All right, on to the show. Let's just jump into it. So today we have Basil, and Basil is a well-known Dorinthea player. Also goes by the screen name Inertia. Say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Yep. So yeah, we've been chit-chatting a little bit back and forth, and he's been having some issues with Guardian in particular. But so your RTN season, I heard it didn't quite go as well as you wanted to, and so we're just going to take a look at the list that he's been running and take a look at how that evolved, play a couple games, talk to him about how he sideboards the matchups and all that, and see if we can help him learn a few things today. So yeah, so you've been playing Dorinthea for quite a while, right? Why don't you give the people a little bit of an introduction to who you are and all that.
For sure. So yeah, my name's Basil, aka Inertia. I'm in the Toronto region, which is like there's a lot of really control. It's like control
Yeah, you said that's like
land.
guardian hell.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
it's taken a while to refine something
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like is okay against Guardian.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not even sure if it's there yet, and it's
Right.
basically the end of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of my results last weekend might have been like probably would have been a lot of pilot error as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Yes.
I eventually arrived to something that just can basically play mid range forever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think you've arrived to mid range as well.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just try to play mid range for a really
Mhm.
long time and then close out the game with one of the tall reacts.
Right. So looking at your list here, your equipment suite looks very normal. You do have AB2. I guess that's just to respect Icelander and Kano a little bit more than most decks do. Is there a
Yeah, I'm
reason? why you picked AB2 instead of AB1 or AB3?
Yeah, definitely pretty specific reasons. So Icelander, I'm not sure. I think you just run AB1.
Mm-hmm.
But for Kano specifically, I really like having AB2
Yep.
and Oasis. So that gives you a lot of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way I play into Kano is so you can threaten almost lethal
Sure.
with for zero
Mm-hmm.
resources with courage and bolters.
Sure.
So that basically tells the Kano player they're gonna have to kill me through holding up 4 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're not completely lethal just with the Dawnblade, you can hold up
Right.
reactions to the very, very end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's
that's like kind of a unique strength we have against Kano,
yeah,
I think.
very few decks can actually force the Kano to kind of play first. Um, that's definitely a unique strength. So just looking at your list, it looks fairly stock. I guess the only oddities I'm seeing is no third Iron Song response. Some people run one route, some people run two. That's kind of a stylistic choice. You don't have Out for Blood in this list, it looks like, or yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about why you don't like Out for Blood? I guess
For sure, yeah. I
because that.
found the reprise in Out for Blood's like very rarely uh in play.
Mm-hmm.
And I started really loving Stroke of Foresight recently because I go for a lot of like Hail Mary top decks, and they pay off a fair amount.
I
They
see.
pay off a
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly
Sure.
high amount.
Mm-hmm.
And then also because I'm like focusing on life gain, which we haven't gotten into.
Yep. Yep. I see the Oasis, the Heart, two Fendel's Fighting Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So opting almost becomes a form of life gain in a way because you're digging for those life gain cards. So the
Mm-hmm.
faster you dig through your deck, the
Interesting.
faster you're gaining life essentially.
Okay.
On top of stroke just being good by itself, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like it's pretty underrated.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Digging through the list a little bit more, you run one copy of Twinning Blade. This is highly unusual. Um,
So
I would
actually,
I
so
would
getting
normally
into the
advocate
list,
for three, but yeah.
our lists I've noticed couldn't be like almost more far apart. Like we agree on Valor and Sharp and Steel, and like that's like practically it.
And some of the energy base, singing steel blade, glistening, yeah. There's quite a few differences, which is fine. There's in fact, I think it's actually a good thing that there are multiple Dory lists out there because when Dorinthea becomes homogenized, that's when it becomes very very easy to tech against it. Like if you know the exact 80 that somebody's running, it's really really easy to counter them, which is kind of the weakness of my deck is like when
Yeah, because you're
when
famous.
when
Like
you
once you see
see
a
yellow
reaction, it's like
overpower, you
yeah,
know they're
exactly.
most likely on my list. And then you're like, okay, I never have to play around puncture, I never have to play around command and conquer, stuff like that, right? So the fact that there are different Dory lists is actually a good thing. So I'm just pointing out to the viewers that there's like some differences here. So maybe talk about why you don't like Twinning Blade as much, and I'll kind of yeah.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that a lot too. Like I think about everything a lot when it comes to Dorinthea. I've had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
time to think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so where a lot of people use Twinning Blade, I prefer to use Pursuit of Knowledge or Command and Conquer as my third attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then so Twinning Blade is just like a one-off combo piece for me that like I'll search it when I need it if I'm like about to kill. If I have a lot of counters and I have Singing Steel Blade and I have like just
Mm-hmm.
all the resources at my disposal,
Sure.
then I'll like tutor up Twinning Blade.
Um.
But
Mm-hmm.
I try to focus on like cards that work really well
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have counters because most of the time people are stopping you,
Sure.
stopping me anyway in the control land.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, reliance on attack
mm-hmm.
actions more so.
Okay, so that's a stylistic choice. I would there's also a lot of indirect benefit that you gain from running just one. Is people will assume that you have three, so that's a big benefit there is because this is actually a fairly rare choice that people are just going to assume that you have three. So one of the cards that I'm seeing that we kind of differ on is Energy Potion. You're running one. I run the full play set, and I think this might be the reason why you're hurting in the Guardian matchup. Is um, Energy Potions are really really important against them from my experience, and I also like Energy Potion on turn 0 as well. So um, I try to create a more stable like in almost every single matchup other than like Bravo, Dash, a couple others. You want to be going second. So when you're forced to go first, I like having the option of deploying epots against different decks. And if you only run one of them, the chance of drawing it is like, pretty low. Um, is there a reason you don't like 2 or 3 epots? Is it just for the fact that it has no block on it, or
Yeah,
you
I
just?
found like it wasn't really meshing with like my personal play style as much. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm,
why. Like
mm-hmm,
I could probably cut the blue overpower for another epot.
mm-hmm. Sure.
I've definitely in the past I've been running more,
Mm-hmm,
and I
sure.
also I in games where I don't use it too sometimes. So it feels kind of awkward
Mm-hmm.
because but maybe
Okay.
I'm just like kind of
Yeah.
making the wrong choices.
All right. Now that you mentioned Blue Overpower is another card you're only running one of. It seems like you're running 20 blues, which I think is okay. It is going to be a. There's going to be some hands where you're going to wish you had a double blue, especially like when you draw one of those overpowers, or even like CNC or Pursuit. Like you're going to need go again plus swing and then another 2 energy for that. So it's like if you have a pump, that could be like 5 energy that you need on that turn. So it could be a little weird. Other
One
than that.
basic line I
Mhm,
do is Dawnblade into attack action for that's like a 3 card hand, I think.
mhm. So assuming that you're running hit and run there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Okay. You run double pummel, triple pursuit of knowledge. So this does make your deck block a little bit less. As I guess you just kind of like having them together. I guess is
The
that.
pummels, I only pummel the CNC because Pursuit for 6 isn't so
Mm-hmm,
great. Pursuit of Knowledge is just kind of a blue that gets pitched, but then sometimes you end up with a double blue hand.
mm-hmm,
One of your blues is Pursuit and like Spoils
mm-hmm,
of War. Can be like
mm-hmm.
pretty hard for your opponent to play around unless they have like multiple reactions.
Sure.
And then also like if you care about blocking, then you're probably running 70 cards, and
Mm-hmm,
then you have quite a few defense reactions to compensate for the.
sure.
There's only 5 2 blocks, so
Yep.
to me that's not a lot.
Yep. Sure. Uh, that generally the 2 block actually doesn't get you in too much trouble.
Yeah,
But
I've never I'm
mhm,
not that allergic to two
yeah,
blocks, like as the saying
yeah,
goes.
yeah. I slightly prefer more because I've 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 kind of joked about this in some of my videos that like I'm one of the slowest uh Dorinthea players out there. In other words, like I'm very very fine with just laying my hand down, moving to the next set of 4 cards. Like if the opponent's presenting enough damage, I'm like, sure, block 12, move on with life, right? So I guess
Playing a
that's
lot
just
of
a style.
mid-rangeless games just
Yeah,
lately, so yeah.
yeah. I think that's a stylistic choice. I from the Dorinthea mirrors that I've played, like people are way more aggressive than I am. But anyways, so you're running 9 defensive cards here.
Hmm.
Um, Sync and Shunt both fairly staple. We already talked about Oasis. I guess the standout card here is the Yellow Sphendle Fighting Spirit. This gives you what 6 or 5 poppers. This also gives you
Yep.
some life gain. How has this card been treating you?
I really like it.
Mm-hmm,
And kind of we were talking about like copying lists. Like if
mm-hmm.
you see like Pursuit of Knowledge and Final Spirit, it's like there's a chance that someone is copying my list. It's
Yeah,
like
that's true.
a bit of my signature, I would say, at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Yep.
I really
Okay.
love this card a lot because we're playing so much mid range. So you can like in a mid range matchup, you can block 6, swing 6, gain 1 life, and then block 6 again against like Azuri.
Yep.
And the game's
S-
literally going backwards, not forwards
So
there.
you're almost always using this on offense, not defense.
I yeah, that's like the way you get way more value out
Mhm.
of it, unless it's you're using it as a popper, then you get pretty good
Is there
value.
a reason you're not running the red version of this?
Yeah, so like Dorinthea, really the difference between a yellow and a red is like pretty huge.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than the difference between 6 generic damage versus 7 generic damage. I
Mm-hmm.
think the yellow is
Hmm.
makes a huge difference. Like the on a 5 resource turn, um, you can do
Sure.
quite a bit more. You can do a full line with a rev on a
Mm-hmm.
5 resource turn.
Yep. So for the viewers, like the difference between 4, 5, and 6 energy available to you is actually pretty massive. 6 enables you to run overpower. 4 just gives you one of those puncture out for blood stroke force side effects. Okay, so I can see it that way. You also run 1 remembrance. I think this is uh, a card that we may not need going forward. This feels like you just run it against Oldhim, Riptide, maybe against Dromai, right?
Yeah,
Bravo,
like
maybe.
anytime you're playing a long game, I think it's
Mhm,
actually like pretty important. It's like a last ditch effort for me, but it's like it works, whereas I've
mhm.
never gotten last ditch effort to work.
Sure. Okay. Um. All right. So this list is fairly different than my own, but
Yeah.
we have but it seems like you have a good justification for all the cards that are in here. And so I guess do you want to talk about like which matchups you've been kind of having issues with, and then I'll talk a little bit about. You can talk about your approach, and I'll talk about my approach, and we can compare notes on that.
For sure, yeah. I've really thrown everything at the kitchen sink against Oldhim. I've tried so many versions. I even a few months ago I said, you know what happens if we run Rainbow Overpower and Rainbow Response? I tried that into Oldhim, and it was actually seemed pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, it actually it worked pretty well. I was
Mm-hmm.
and
So this is
so
after the Winter's Whale ban, right? You're talking about.
that was around that time I think, yeah,
Okay.
where I was trying that one out.
So when Winter's Whale got banned, that is when the Oldims. This was around the time of the calling Indianapolis. This is when the Oldims moved to. There were like fatigue Oldims popping up, right? Um, so
Yep.
it's understandable that Dorinthea would struggle into that, but now we've kind of seen a shift away from that, mainly because that was before Outsiders. So as soon as Outsiders released, decks like Azalea, Lexi were just even like Riptide. They were fatiguing Oldhim, right? So the Oldhim had to become more aggressive, which actually helped us, right? So I think
Oh yeah.
talking
Everyone
about
around here plays a bit more
Mhm.
aggressive old.
Yeah, so I think talking about the experience you had, pre Outsiders is interesting, but not entirely useful for our current discussion, right? Especially considering Oldham is leaving, right? So I guess
Yeah, true. Yeah,
I
hasn't sunk in yet.
yeah, I guess the real core of this is like when you play against a Guardian, which is going to be Bravo. I I guess let's talk about your approach to Bravo because that's going to be the real relevant one, and it's possible that he is a player in the next metagame, right?
The other one is Illusionist as well,
Mm-hmm.
but sticking to
Yeah,
Guardian,
yeah. They require completely different play styles. That's the thing. So we'll break down Guardian and then Illusionist and then Aggro because I think those are roughly the pools that we're going to be dealing with in the upcoming meta.
Bravo's quite a bit easier. Like I don't actually struggle into Bravo as much, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because Bravo has to give up something permanent when you push any sort of damage. Like
Right.
swinging 3 into and nothing else, just 3 into Bravo is not the same as doing that against Oldhim. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like so
Yes.
you basically what I do is I play a really like pretty turtle actually against Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
and kind of slow down the game as much as possible.
Hmm.
And when it's like a super end game, I'm trying to close out with is it any of the three shunts, which really matter. You really have to like use those conservatively because
Hmm.
and use the other defense reaction like more liberally.
Hmm. The
And then
the
the overpower and the route is also how I want
mhm,
to close the game.
sure. Uh, the biggest tip I can give people to help them with the Bravo matchup is look very carefully at your armor suite, um, and then think about how you can stop a crippling crush. Right. So crippling crush comes in for 11. Right. Let's assume he
Yeah,
pitched
minus
three
three.
blues. He gives a dominate to it. Right. So you're gonna have. So you need to block 8. Right. Um, and there's several ways you can block for 8. Right. So the easiest way to block for 8 is a card plus Crown of Providence plus bracers plus bolters, right? So I see a lot of people when they play against Bravo, they are like using their armor here and there, and that just creates tons of incentive for the Oldhim to play Crippling Crush
The
against you.
Bravo or the old
Oh,
him?
the Bravo, sorry, the Bravo will play Crippling Crush if you start using your armor like here and there, right? So it's very important to like save your armor in that matchup. Because you can block for 8 with a card in hand. You don't need a D react in arsenal, right? And then if you have a D react in arsenal, then the second, then it would be bracers, sink below from arsenal, card in hand is 8 as well. Obviously, if you have shunt, then this is very very easy to shut down. Um, but
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
remember the Starvo days as well doing that math.
yeah, there was a lot of math to be done. So yeah, generally I agree with what you said. Use your armor correctly in that matchup. Kind of wait for your spots. Like certain hands will just line up and tell you that it's time to go. I generally play for second cycle against Bravo, mainly because their armor plus their defenses is just too high. Their deck blocks consistently for
Yeah,
3. The downside of that is that the the issue I have with Bravo sometimes is that you don't know what type of Bravo you're going to be playing against, right? So when you sit down across a Bravo, they actually could be like Rainbow Pummel, Rouse the Ancients, Zealous Belting, East Strike, Crippling Crush, Final Crush. Like we call that Unga Bunga Bravo, right? That's possible, right?
Unga
And
Bravo.
Unga Bunga Bravo. And then you have the other polar opposite, where it's like they present 73 to you. They have like rainbow staunch responses and like a remembrance, and like it's um so I think you just kind of have to identify what playstyle they're playing and kind of adapt to what they're doing. Um, okay, so let's talk about the Dromai matchup here. It looks like your deck. So there's for
It's
Dorinthia's
tough.
for
It's
Dorinthia's
tough.
there's for Dorinthia's there's basically two approaches here. Is you either like run enough poppers and a medium amount of go again, or you run like no poppers and a ton of go again, right? And it's we've kind of taken different approaches on this. Um, so what are some issues that you're dealing with against Dromai? And I do agree it is a tough matchup, especially if they know what they're doing.
So the aggro Dromai feels pretty easy. So I actually would so I assume they're on a controlled Dromai, so like the big dragon list. That's my
Mm-hmm.
base assumption. So
Mm-hmm.
I end up bringing in the full 72 cards,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that it's like I don't know like in my testing,
Mm-hmm.
everything is in my testing, but in my testing, I found it very easy to fatigue aggro Dromai. They just like it's like boost dash. They just go through their deck so fast.
Right.
Um,
And they're incentivized highly to do so because they want to close the game with burn them all generally. So they they're definitely going through their deck quicker, and they don't have any. Most of their dragons cost 0, so they're just playing a bunch and hoping that you don't pop anything. So I think it's important to note that having poppers against the red line Dromai is actually more effective because
yeah,
the control Dromai, if they're feeding you dragons, that's actually feeding you Dawnblade counters. Yep.
yeah. The control Dromai, especially if they're really good, is is really hard to beat.
Hmm.
I think it's if they're really good and they know what they're doing, it's probably impossible to fatigue them.
Hmm.
You might, as a Dorinthea player, might catch some control Dromai players off guard because what I'm trying to do is kind of like not
Are you,
really
are you running
what
AB in
what
that
people
matchup?
do. Actually, yeah. So I do run AB1 because
Hmm.
I have six costed defensive options, so
Hmm.
that pitching a blue or a yellow for AB1 and then Oasis
Okay,
um, is pretty nice if you're playing a
interesting.
really long game.
Okay.
And then if the Dromai player is like not maybe like intermediate and not like hyper efficient and perfect,
Hmm.
then you can like out economy them. They won't be able to like close the game because you haven't taken any arcane damage. So you're just at a higher life total.
Yep. Okay, interesting.
It doesn't
Okay.
always happen, but it
Hmm.
can or and it all so there's like basically two paths to victory that I can see is you can combo them with like a huge amount of counters.
Hmm.
Because I've killed people from like 25
Which,
with a whole bunch of counters.
which is very dependent on them allowing that to happen, right? If the
Yeah,
Dromai really wants to remove your counters, they basically will say, okay, I'm not going to put a dragon on board, and when you attack me, I'm going to have my D react, maybe my sand cover ready, and then they just shut your turn down like that. So um, that playstyle is not even available all the time, but
it's like each board is so unique
yeah. Hmm.
that like you have to really analyze the board every single time.
Yep, I
There's like
agree.
if you're at all autopiloting, because I'm guilty of autopiloting, you it's
Hmm.
like can be really bad. You can
Sure.
play sharp and steel on the first swing when you should have hit a dragon. You're just like,
Hmm.
well, whoops.
Okay,
So
sure.
yeah, you can also maybe fatigue them, or you can also I've noticed sometimes the Dromai player will just take 20 willingly.
Hmm.
And so there's like kind of those three different cases that I've
Yep.
noticed that are pretty common.
Yeah, that's actually one of the matchups that I think is one of the most tricky for Dory to pilot because piloting against all the aggro matchups, which we're going to talk about next, is fairly straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you just smack them in the face, use your armor at the correct time, and hope that you don't draw four reds when you have tempo. So that's basically the TLDR for aggro. But like Dromai really requires you to identify exactly how your strategy interacts with their strategy and like how they're playing the game, like because every Dromai player is different, right? So
Yeah.
I think
And
there's a lot to be said there. Like um, that's actually one of there's kind of I don't know if echo chamber is the right word, but it's like if you practice against a particular Dromai a lot, you can make a lot of assumptions that might be wrong, right? So it's actually fairly important to practice with several Dromai players if you have several Dromai players that you can practice with, right? Because like my brother Michael Lau, he's a Dromai player. If I if
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm
nah,
kidding. I'm kidding.
nah, he plays Warriors sometimes, so he's cool. Uh, he so playing against him, like I develop a certain style, right? So that's why I ask him like, hey, can you develop several Dromai lists and just pull one randomly and play test it against me, right? So I don't exactly like know exactly the configuration and I have to adapt, right? So I think that's something that's important. Okay, so let's briefly talk about how you deal with aggro matchups. Like, I guess the one we want to talk about most is Lexi.
For sure. What is there to say? You have to be like extremely offensive, of course.
Hmm.
It almost feels foreign to me because I've been playing so many grind games. It's like there's have been times where I forget how to do this, but it's like it practically plays itself. The Warrior's Valor, I think, is just like super key because it's a pump and it gives go again,
Yep.
and that's just like that's just crazy value
Hmm.
because the go again is worth at least three, and then the pump is worth like potentially like three. So
Hmm.
that's just kind of
Yep.
that's crazy. Um,
Hmm.
and everything's kind of based around off of that. Oh,
The
it's based on like having more than a three resource hand. So it's like you have three to play your attacks, and then you have another three potentially
sure.
for your attack
So
reaction.
that's a key difference between your list and my list. Is my list can run with a single blue. Also, there seems I also think my list is more consistent because having like more mini combos like Iron Song Determination plus Valor is good, or uh, Twinning Blade plus Glistening Steel Blade or stuff like that, right? So the fact that you're running one Iron Song Determination, one Twinning Blade, like just makes things a little bit more, a little bit higher variance, I think, and I think, which is fine. Having higher variance is fine because that makes your I think your deck's attack pattern is actually way more unpredictable than mine, which is really, really, really important sometimes. So
Oh yeah, like
trading unpredictability for power is fine. Yep.
especially with the attack actions, I think it's basically impossible for the opponent to anticipate
Yep.
attack actions.
Yeah.
There's just no way. You go like
Especially.
Dawnblade with Go again, and it's like the Dawnblade attack is just a
Yep.
total just ruse.
Yep. And the the nice thing about that is that, especially against aggro decks, is that the matchup is so short they don't even have time to figure out. Oh, you're running Command and Conquer and Pursuit of Knowledge. Okay. Right. So
Yeah,
by the time they figure out these things, it could already be too late, right?
a
So
lot of players, it's kind of crazy. Like, don't even necessarily know what's going on because if you
mhm,
have like Pursuit, Spoils of War and Pursuit of Knowledge in a race,
mhm,
if like let's say you're bluffing a pump so that you're bluffing up to eight. And but if they block for that eight, then you follow up with Pursuit of Knowledge, and
mhm,
they have to give up more resources or you get another card. If you can
sure.
arsenal at the same time, it's like can be pretty crazy.
Yep.
So I'm just going for this like vortex of like kind of there's
Damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation.
there's that
Mhm.
video where comparing Fab to fighting games. So it's like it's literally like mix ups and Oki type of
Yeah.
concept that
Yep.
I'm really going for.
Yep.
And the hit and run is crazy against like Briar and specifically. If you can like CNC for 9 against Briar, that's like yeah,
Mhm.
like it's really hard to lose the game from there. There's just like certain moves that I make that I notice
Yeah.
where it's like when I get this certain play, I usually results in winning and like somehow CNC for 9 is ends up winning the
Yep.
game.
The
It seems good.
the this is actually why this is one of the cards I kind of miss with my list. This red hit and run is a really good card. It's not just for your weapon. It says your next attack gets +3. Very similar to Out for Blood. You don't have Out for Blood here, but Out for Blood just says +1 to the next attack, not
Yep.
necessarily a weapon attack. Yep.
And
Okay.
yeah, the modularity of those turns too, because sometimes when you go for that, they want
Mm-hmm.
to race, so you actually get two Dawnblade swings and then CNC regular instead of CNC for 9.
Mm-hmm.
So that's you have the option to based on what the opponent does, and that's actually like the whole I think philosophy of Dorinthea is you
Mm-hmm.
have there's multiple options that the opponent can do, and if they do X, you do Y, and
Yep.
if they do Y, you do X. Like
Yep.
there's sometimes nothing they can do.
Exactly. There is one slight weakness of doing it that way is that, if they do X, then you do Y. Uh, the fact that attack reactions basically have to come first before defense reactions means, uh, a timely D react can deny much, much more than just 4 value from you. If they play a sink blow on a key turn, that could, destroy the value you get from your second hit, the value you get from your supremacy, maybe the value from, you know your +3 pump, obviously, as well. So,
Yeah,
I
defense reactions is always going to be the answer against
yep.
us. That's just
Yeah. So the, this list is actually, you know kind of represents a kind of more old school style of like, um, lots of mix ups, fairly unpredictable play patterns, and it's, has the ability to slow the game down if it wants. It's this type of deck list does slightly better when there's less D reacts around.
oh
And
yeah, the D reacts do hurt, and
yeah, yeah,
That's
Mhm.
kind of how it goes
Yep.
sometimes.
That's kind of, life of the warrior. That's kind of just how it is. Okay. I guess we've talked about your list. We talked about several matchups, or we talked about like bucket matchups. So like Guardian, Illusionist, Aggro, right? Which are basically most of your matchups there. Okay, so
Azuri is a big one, but that's kind of
Azuri is another big one. Yeah, so that's one that has recently popped up. I think most people are kind of on the fairly more aggressive version with the E strikes and the E strikes, shreds, rabbles, that type of build. Is that what you've been encountering mostly?
I think it's a mix,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. There's like I played Contract Azuri in RTN, like against it. And then I have a friend who's like on the aggro version. I always assume they're on contract. Like
Interesting.
pretty
Okay.
much if the opponent has a control version, I assume they're on it. I
Mm-hmm.
think the exception is like dash. I assume I just play aggro into dash.
Mm-hmm.
But for because
Sure.
assassin really can just uh pose you if you try to play aggro into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have, if they have the reacts, they almost certainly have Sync Fate unmovable and probably reinforce the line if they're playing defensively. So it is going to be tricky to break through that, especially when you're incentivized not to have an arsenal against them. Because if you don't have an arsenal, you deny, leave no witnesses, CNC. There's a lot of things that you could kind of play around if you don't have an arsenal.
A
Okay,
lot of the times I'm trying to guess if they have CNC.
yeah, a lot of it is just kind of guessing and just letting it hit if it hits. Um, okay, so we've talked about your list, we've talked about your matchups. Let's jump into some games. And so this is kind of going
Sure.
to be the meat and potatoes of this video, right? So Basil is a very very experienced Dorinthea player. Probably has played just as many Dory games as me, but we have different styles, and there will probably be some places where we have some discussion on like whether we're going to block with this card or how we're going to play our turn and such like that. And I think that's where he and you guys are going to get most of your value from this video, is just seeing how you know there are different lines that exist. And yeah, so let's just jump into that. All right, so you're going to be playing the deck list that we just talked about. And
Oh yeah.
do you do you normally put a request in your game name, or do you just kind of let it default? What you get is what you get.
I usually do whatever. There's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's a days where it's like I really want to play a certain matchup, but
Sure.
I usually just play whatever.
Sure.
And
All right.
I always go in the not like the regular
Mm-hmm.
that says competitive, but usually I do this so they
Mm-hmm.
can see that I'm playing Dorinthia
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
I just like it when people know what they're signing
Sure. That works. Let's go take this deck for a spin and
up. Alrighty,
see what we get.
let's see what we get. We can show the list here.
Yep, that is the list.
Yeah.
So for
Uh,
those of you who've been playing Dory for quite a while, this is these are all fairly standard cards. They may not be in the exact ratios that you're used to, but this play is very similar to most Dory lists, or old school
yeah.
Dory lists. I'm going to call it old school, but traditional, you know, traditional mix up Dory. I guess we'll call it mix up Dory. Um,
I'm a very traditional player, I would say.
mhm,
This is almost all
mhm. How
old cards.
how long have you been playing the game?
I started between Monarch and Tails, and
Okay,
I've pretty much played Dory the whole time, like
okay,
nonstop. I've also made Prism,
hmm,
but it's like largely just all Dory all the time.
sure,
She has like
okay,
the unique factors of Dory
hmm.
are just don't exist for me
And
in
anything
other
else? Like
heroes.
the only thing that is like remotely close is Azuri. Like
Let me check.
I
Yeah,
did you put it on public? Okay, yeah, okay.
yeah, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, it's possible that people just don't want to play Dory. That's why I
That
prefer
happens.
joining. That's why I prefer actually just setting it to competitive CC and just saying, "Hey,
People leave a lot. When I join, people
uh,
leave.
oh."
I don't know if it's because of my screen name because I cause ruckus online or because it's the story.
uh,
We can
that's
also
why.
join
That's
one.
yeah. If you want, you can just join one.
Let's try this Azuri.
Sure.
I like going first
Um.
because I played the long game and I played
Sh-
Tunic.
sure.
That's why I like going
Sure. Well.
first.
So I personally like going second, but that's fine. We will stick with because you know your deck better, so we'll stick with going first. So when you go first against Azuri, this also gives you some information on what they're planning on doing, right? So they're probably going to have to block with 3 cards. That tells you quite a bit about their deck. So you're going to run the whole 72 here, right?
Yep, we
Okay.
are full 72.
Yep.
Uh, right now I'm seeing us singing into Rev plus Iron Song for Chip.
Yep. Or
The
you
only thing to
can.
do is Dawn Blade anyway.
Yeah. So the main thing here is to pitch the Remembrance first. This not only puts Remembrance back in your deck, it also gives a very clear point if we don't shuffle our deck of where our second cycle is. And it also can kind of fake that we don't have all the cards. So this is the beauty of having 2 routes. You can basically spend a route here.
Yep. The when I see singing in the first turn, my goal is just to do a whole bunch of chip
Mm-hmm.
damage.
Yep.
Might have like 3 or 4.
Yep. Okay, so we see a Fate Foreseen from the opponent, indicating they're probably going to be a slower deck here.
Could go overpowered.
You could go Overpower.
No, we
Uh,
want. I think red is better here
I think Route is better here.
on turn
Mainly,
1.
yeah, mainly because this gives you 3 routes left in your deck and one. Mhm. Okay, so this is where I would differ here from you. I would have arsenaled the Iron Song response, um, mainly because when you draw up a new hand, having a Iron Song response in Arsenal means there's many different ways that you can get a decent combo, right? So if you draw any like Spoils of War, Warrior's Valor, that becomes a good 2 card hand there. I guess we should also briefly talk about the fact that your opponent is running Crown of Providence and Snapdragons and Spider's Bite. These are 3 cards that are slightly unusual. Scale Peeler is
Yeah,
also
that was
unusual as
interesting.
well. Yeah, so normally you would see Orbitoclast and yeah, this is actually very weird. So your opponent spending a ton of a ton of energy to deal 2 damage there. We'll take that every day. So having
Okay,
Snapdragons
here we
there.
go.
Yep. Okay, so one thing that we should note, and we talked about this earlier, is not arseling that Iron Song response means if this is Leave No Witnesses, if this is CNC, we don't care, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
I cashed that in
mhm,
because I'm playing a long game, so it's
mhm,
like I don't necessarily care if I have an arsenal right off the bat. I'd rather like cash in the
sure,
damage.
sure.
Which ones
So
are
so the flip
these?
side of that, so my thinking there would be like if um
Equipment
if
and
we're playing for
attack
second
action.
cycle,
Okay.
chipping in 3 damage on turn 0 doesn't ultimately matter much because we're playing for like who has the better second cycle deck quality here. So why did you block 6 here and instead of 3 or 0?
So I really like to respect the 6 from Azuri's
Mm-hmm.
hero ability, and then I also just sets up a nice CNC if that was a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have like quite a few reactions where if I respect the 6 without by just pure blocking, once I have a reaction, then I can start to block with only 1 card.
Mm-hmm.
Block the stealth attack with only 1 card, especially if you have Oasis. Oasis just stuffs whatever they have.
Sure. And when the tunic counter will be on 3, that'll be better. Um, hmm. I would generally lean towards
Okay,
well
this is an interesting game.
that is highly unusual.
Should I
Um,
tell him not to do that or should I pass?
I think you just let it happen. I mean,
Okay.
if your opponent doesn't value the tunic there, that's fine.
Um,
All right. So
so
another isolate here. So my thinking is that um
Hmm.
that isolate came from Arsenal, right? So that means last turn he didn't have anything. He was bluffing that he had something. So yeah, that's just it is what it is. So this situation is quite different.
We could respect it with armor, but
Mm-hmm.
let's see. It's so early that he could easily have a threat, but he gave up surgical extraction as well. I don't even think he has a threat,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
I think
If he
he
has
does, but
CNC, it doesn't
I don't
matter.
think it actually matters here what it is, because if this is like Death Touch, so be it. If it's Shakedown, that's unfortunate, but we just have to get them out of the deck anyways. If it's CNC, is what it is. Surgical
He
Extraction
has
is
a long
fine.
one. Okay.
Yep, that's fine. This actually isn't dealing much damage. It's gonna take some tempo, but at least
Yeah, my
does
hand is
it doesn't actually deny you any it doesn't mess up your turn that this hit. Plus,
I'm just
giving him a
wondering,
silver
hopefully I
doesn't
don't
matter.
have to Arsenal a pummel here. That's what I'm worried about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how
Sure.
do we not Arsenal a pummel?
Well, I think arseling a pummel is not the end of the game, right? I think it's fine.
Yeah, it could be fine. We'll just
I mean,
draw
we
a
can
command and
crown it away.
conquer
I mean, as
or
long as I
crown it
have,
away.
in general, as long as I have crown, I'm always arseling a card. The the nourishing emptiness in his deck is interesting. That's fairly rare.
I've
Frailty
heard of
trap.
people running it, but
Mm-hmm.
no one seems to know why in
Okay,
Azuri.
so this is actually a major point right now. You saw he's playing frailty trap in his deck, so we need to be aware of that now. Frailty trap and fate foreseen. All right, we drew 4 reds. Unfortunate. This is
So
where we're.
that's the thing with running 70 cards is
Mhm.
you're like more so a red line deck because there's not a
Yes.
lot of reds
Yeah,
in the
you
sideboard.
only have 20. You only have 20 blues,
Yeah,
right? So you're
so
20 out
that's
of.
that's not a problem for me,
Mhm,
mostly because when you're playing mid range, usually you're playing a two resource hand anyway. So if you have one yellow
mhm,
and a sharpened steel or something, not really the end of the world when you're doing this like mid range.
mhm.
But I actually used to have a list where it was basically a 70 card aggro deck with proper pitch ratios as a 70 card deck, but the defense reactions were blue, um,
That's
which
that
like
is
had its
very
own
interesting. I've never heard of such a
that
strategy.
had its own weakness, but it was
Hmm.
my top performing deck that I won an
That
event
is a
with.
that is an
But
interesting idea. Yeah, that's something that like people are often really quick to dismiss ideas like that. But I think this is how innovation happens, right? Is somebody comes up with something dumb. 9 out of 10 people call it dumb, and then one out is like, hold on, there might be something to that, right? If your D reacts are blue, and you like certain matchups, it doesn't matter whether they're red or yellow. I guess the blue is kind of the break point, but Steelblade Shunt blue is
it was
just
blue
is
unmovable,
good.
blue shunt,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just played your aggro game
Mhm.
with 72
Okay,
card deck,
so
and then you had some
you're
pummel
not you're not
coverage.
talking about blue sync below blue fate proceed. Okay, so yeah,
Oh no,
that
definitely not.
yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. Okay, so you're talking about big blue D reacts. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
so
we have a sedate here, right? So
all right.
now of
So
note, it took him how long to
it took a while.
make this play?
There's no
Uh,
shred, so I can pass. Okay. That was a very long time to
take 1 damage.
deal one deck.
Now that was an inertia as well, which is kind of annoying, but is what it is.
Yeah, I'm
So unfortunately, there's really no good way to play this hand. Um, it's the best way to play this hand to pitch the supremacy and swing, and then
yep, I think so.
pitch 2 cards plus the tunic to overpower. I think is the correct way to use this hand.
Yep, that's pretty much what I was thinking.
I think there was a definite there was some merit to blocking last turn with the like pitch the supremacy shunt and then like pitch the overpower to so you have to take the tunic first, yeah. And then overpower pitch. So this does give him information that shunt's going to the bottom and that you're playing shunt in your deck, but he shouldn't be too surprised. Okay, so 5-card hand from him, and we have no D-React, and we have no Arsenal, so...
Just block 6?
Yeah, just block 6 could be okay here. So
We haven't seen a single shred. The thing that I like to know is are they running shred?
Yes, that is it. It looks like they're more defensive here. And then I say that, and he plays looking for scrap red. But okay.
What do you want to do here?
Several so my initial thought, because I like to play 5-card hands, is to block a bit and see if we can arsenal the puncture for a bigger turn. But that does open us up to a lot of disruption from Azuri.
Yeah, I do like blocking against Azuri quite a
I
bit.
do think blocking here would be better because we're trying to go to second cycle, preserve our life a bit. So, yep. And if we can pitch the Twinning Blade back into the deck, that would be good, especially considering there's only one of them.
Yep, I'm pretty aware of that.
Yep.
When you only want run one, you got to really think about what you're blocking with.
Yep. So I expect there to be a decent disruptive, like isolate into something decent here from him, considering they kept the whole hand. Let's see what they do.
Takes the dagger.
Okay. Spider's Bite, not very effective against us, especially considering we already blocked with the pursuit.
Yeah, the best ones are non-attack action and defense
and reaction and react.
or
Yeah,
just reaction.
yeah. The one that is reactions is actually really strong against us. So.
Because it affects you when you just vanilla block.
Okay, so I think this is actually the decision point where we're going to differ the most.
Yeah, this is the turn where we decide like, do we want to raise the stakes or are we like tread it? Do we want to just tread water some more? I could take 7 and swing for 6. That's technically okay on paper.
Yeah, your hand is getting 6 value either way. The question is whether or not Twinning Blade's going back into the deck and whether or not.
I don't even value Twinning Blade that much in this matchup because if I'm playing a slow game, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't see myself getting the counters. I think I like to block here.
Sure, I would also lean towards blocking here. Okay, so we get a third of an energy potion and move on. Okay,
a third or I think we got a 6th.
I'm talking about like one counter on it. Oh yeah, a 6 of it. Yeah. A 6 of it. Yes, you're right. A 6 of it.
You're so correct. If they have shred, I would block with 1 card here. If they don't have shred, then I would just block with shunt.
Yeah, and we haven't seen them pitch it yet.
Some Azuri just don't run shred.
Yep.
And you never know.
Yeah, that's okay, looks like their hand has a bunch of reds in it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wondering why they're running Nourishing Emptiness in their deck. I guess it's as a popper and turn 0 play, but it's kind of weird. All right, so they're switching out. So
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, that's just vanilla damage. But the issue here now is that your hand doesn't actually get max value here. You basically can only get.
I'm surprisingly okay with this hand.
Yeah.
This is like kind of an okay mid-range hand for me because like my mid-range goals is just to mitigate damage and always be pushing out 6 damage ideally, but sometimes you only get to 3.
I,
So it would be nice, I guess, if like this was a blue, I could play both stroke.
mhm,
But also, if I can just cycle a card here, to me, that's kind of a victory, and then Arsenal Shunt.
mhm.
And like I've been playing without Arsenal a fair amount. Like I really only care if I have a defensive Arsenal right now, like in that mid-range kind of plan.
Hmm.
So I'm still personally want a stroke here just
Yeah,
to
get
cycle a
get one
card.
damage in here and see what you can draw. The crown being blocked here is kind of odd, which means
I'm
he
not sure. This person
almost
might be
likes his
making
hand.
a few mistakes. Few.
Yeah, there's some questionable plays so far.
That's what Talashar's for. You make all the
Yeah.
mistakes you like.
Hmm. Sure. Um. Okay.
Yeah, this
So.
turned out to be a really great trade, I think. Like they're
Yep.
burning all these resources here, so that's
Yep.
totally fine with me.
Hmm.
I kind of like sharpen steel on top
Sure. You can.
because I can pay one and swing for six next turn if I draw
Mhm.
another four reds, you know?
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm going for.
Seems fine. I putting the shunt into arsenal is always nice.
And now there's nothing like Azuri can do to you except like if they have another CNC.
So.
I don't think they have.
Mhm.
I don't think they have shred. I'm playing as if they don't have shred, so I think I pass.
Yep. And then you can shunt from arsenal. So them not having the dagger that deals with defense reactions also means you can just do this, and they can't flick knives in response. So.
Oh yeah, we're punishing Azuri pretty hard here.
Yep.
Um, I'm thinking like I could even just pitch sink below and play a good turn
That's
next turn.
no
Or...
that your turn is way too face up if you do it like that.
True.
I
Yeah,
think I
pitch
think you
this
pitch the
glistening, I
glistening
think.
and
Yeah,
just get 6 value from your turn arsenal. The sink below I
yeah,
think is
yeah.
a much more disciplined play here. Like glistening steel blade against most decks, especially as soon as a deck starts running 60 reacts, that's a bad. It becomes a bad card.
Yeah, it's true. It's like a lot of the time in like Toronto area,
It's a
yellow
yellow
build.
bauble that blocks basically. Okay, so we're gonna have tunic, so that's good. So now we can actually make an offensive play with a wide variety of cards. And if we draw
Oh
another
yeah,
shunt, we can also effectively use it.
Raging
Yellow,
Onslaught.
Raging Onslaught.
I love this is actually one of my favorite cards, specifically the yellow.
Yes, this was used when there wasn't quite enough good poppers. And actually, there's very few yellow 6 power 3 blocks in the game.
There's not a
So
lot.
there might be none. Now that I think about it, generics might really be none. Okay, so okay,
And I'm at lower life somehow, and that's just great.
yep. Okay, so
Um,
are you going to throw the Fendel's Fighting Spirit in front of this and possibly sink below something and then play CNC Arsenal of Valor? Is that the play
I'm
here?
thinking I could block with one Valor because I really love playing out Final Spirit.
Okay, that means you're gonna have to Arsenal the CNC.
Yeah, I think block with Valor, and then if I need to, I will sink,
Right,
and
that's
then I
actually
can.
more value because your Valor is just gonna get blocked for 6. Yeah, or your CNC is just gonna get blocked for 6. You might as well gain a life. Yeah, sure. So of note, we have not really had a very good offensive turn. We've basically just been trading down resources. This is what a lot of matchups against lower decks looks like.
Yep, this is what most of my
This is
games look like these days.
this is the bread and butter of this.
And yeah, I don't think I want to sink here, actually. I think I'm
Sure.
happy.
Yep. This is fine. Uh, these the CNC and Fendel's Fighting Spirit are card positive in that like it's gonna 2-for-1 your opponent, so you'll get ahead on deck a little bit there. We haven't seen Eradicate either, so it's likely we're going to have
Oops.
it's likely we're going to have more cards at the end of the game.
And yeah, so I think we took no damage last turn, and now we're gaining 1 life this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we took no damage the turn before that. So that's
Yeah,
really what we're
I was
going
gonna
for here.
say, like, at turn 6, I was like, we're going a little fast here. We're already at half life almost, and it's turn 6. But now that we've kind of slowed things down, I think that's it's better for us. Up,
That's one really cool thing about Dorinthea is
yeah,
you could really like hit the ground running in the beginning, go to a life deficit, play these cards that gain you life when you're at a life deficit, and then like totally just flip the script on your opponent. Like actually, this was a mid-range game the whole time.
okay. There's your single epot there. Is
There
that
it is.
a card that you prioritize playing out here, or is that just
Hard to say. 'Cause, like I have to be like we have to be really careful with the life totals right now. This is very like pivotal moment. Um, so I think we do play out the CNC. I'm thinking right now, how do we get a Dawnblade and a CNC?
so?
And I'm
I actually think you're not going to have an opportunity to play the CNC. I think this is going to be hurl into isolate, switch something in, and then he's not going to have an arsenal.
yeah, true.
So like I think we're just going to deploy Valor and or deploy the we pitch the Valor, glint the Dawnblade, and play the Epot out. Depends on what he does next, but I think the chance of us actually having a target for the CNC is pretty low here.
Yeah, that's probably true. If I'm feel like I want to block 6 to the Azuri ability, then
Mm-hmm.
I'll just play Epot next turn and pass.
Yep. Okay, just
Um,
plays it out
okay.
raw. So this could be cut to shreds, could be shred. Sorry, cut to the chase.
So we want to block 7 here, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's fine. I like that.
So yeah, so that would be okay. Um,
Because I'm
yeah,
really not in a rush to win this
yeah,
game.
yeah. I think that's fine.
That's kind of how I play this. Like, I'm so not in a rush. This is almost what I do against Riptide.
Mhm. Okay, so you can deploy the epot out, and okay,
And now we
so
can gain another life. It feels a little bit degenerate, honestly.
mhm.
Yeah, those Zuri games can be pretty long with just the way I like to play it.
Well, I think it's the correct
Um,
way to play this. So wither, um,
Here I can give up 1 card into stealth and not really worry about it unless they have a shred.
mhm. Okay,
And that's fine.
so spider's bite. So he pitched the death touch, right? Which means he has another card to swap in here. So this basically guarantees he has a swap in here. The question is, what do we want to do about it? So is it block with
Mm,
bracers, pitch spoils, and oasis, and send the Fendel's fighting spirit back, or is it defend with the Fendel's fighting spirit, pitch the spoils of war, play the oasis, swing with Dawnblade next turn, or CNC?
I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm just trying to get an idea of what he might have.
Mm-hmm. We haven't seen an attack react from him other than his hero abilities, so
I
I'm
kind of want to block 6 here.
so if you block 6 here, you're wasting cards, right? Unless you CNC with the Fendel's fighting spirit, Arsenal the Oasis.
Yeah,
Is
that
that
yeah, I think that's what it is.
okay? I think that's fine. You do have a CNC target here, and this is very likely to. So this is actually a play you normally don't make, but we've looked at his graveyard, we've seen his play style, so I think that's fine. And this is
I'm
this
playing
illustrates a
around like Shred pretty
yeah.
much, or the +3,
Hmm.
but
This,
mostly the Shred.
yeah, I feel like he probably doesn't have it, and he's not
Yeah,
using
I'm
flick
starting to
knives
think
because
there are no Shreds.
I don't know what he's using flick knives here for.
Not sure
Those
either.
are not attack action cards, so the spider, and it's already defending, so it doesn't matter here.
The next time they defend.
And normally you want to get the single value block out of the flick knives first, right? Is flick knives blade? It is blade break. Never mind. So
Yep.
that is a little odd. Okay, so
Oh, he's blocking with them, or no? I think he's reacting, isn't he?
yeah, he dealt 1 damage to you.
Oh no. So yeah, he's
So
getting the
yeah,
TNT.
that was not an efficient turn from him. He's so with this is why Azuri has to run some attack reacts, right? Like,
Yeah, if there's no attack reacts, it's a lot less
and
scary.
I think he's
Is that a
well.
misclick?
No, that is him forgetting that you can't play D reacts against CNC. There's no other reason you would block 2, move to reacts, and you say, okay, no reactions.
I'll see if he wants to go back on that one.
Yeah, because that was that's a mistake you make once. Yeah, so that was a mistake.
He says it's fine.
Yeah,
We're just chilling.
yeah, we're just chilling here. All right,
So
backs.
I have the card in Arsenal that says Uzuri does not have a hero ability.
Yep.
We can do whatever we want with full
A,
impunity.
yep. So what I'm looking at here is that your tuning's going to be on 3, so you actually can go Valor with Puncture, would be decent. Um,
Yeah, I would like to.
I
Maybe he'll have a 4. We could give 2 armor here and then block with sync, and then have a pretty good turn
yeah,
next turn.
that is my initial feeling as well. Is that we just armor
Cool.
block and see. So of note, for those of you at home, if you block with a card with temper and they shred it, you're very sad. So do not
Oh
block with
yeah.
your Courage of Blade Hold unless you're very sure about things.
Oh, so
So yeah, we can pitch. So here's another place where we have to figure out if we're going to be more defensive or offensive here. Looks so you took the more offensive route here,
yep.
which I think is fine.
Because I also gained a life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like so into the life gain now.
Yeah.
But I'm only this deck only gains like generally like 7 life. We're not talking crazy
Mm-hmm.
ultim levels here.
Yep.
I
So you,
think we pass.
yeah, you don't puncture this.
And now we puncture this. I
Yep.
bet you he has another react.
If he does,
It
it's
almost
fine. It doesn't.
almost feels like he's on contract.
I am not exactly sure what this looks like. 6 power tribal to me.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Like Raging Onslaught is in there, Nourishing Emptiness is in there. Like this is definitely a homemade deck. This is not a net decked Azuri list here.
But that is why I build my part of why I built the list the way I do, and the reason why I approach Azuri this way is because if you get paired with this Azuri and you're playing aggro with their defense reactions, it's not going to be fun for the Dorinthea player. But if you're just playing super chill like this, it
Mm-hmm.
can be a lot better.
So this was E-Strike draw card. So you do have a target for your CNC. So the question
Unless
is,
he wants the scalers, which would be bad for
no,
him.
there's no way that's what's happening here. So the question is, do you want the overpower in your arsenal or not? With the E-Pod out, I'd be inclined to just block
Oh
with the
yeah,
route.
yeah, for sure with Epod.
Yeah. And then CNC him, and then Arsenal to overpower him. Try to have a decent turn with the E-Pod out. This all the nice thing about having the E-Pod out as well, and this is kind of why I was shocked that you're only running one, is you're bluffing pummel every single time you play.
Yeah.
You're when you're doing this where your intention is just to arsenal it, like it makes them freak out a little bit. Okay, we have a great hand here. We have double blue Valor Overpower. We even have a hit and run, which means if we want, we can actually keep the whole hand. But isolate here is very annoying. We've seen three CNCs, so it's not CNC. Could be shakedowns. It could be surgical or leave no witnesses.
We can't assume it's nothing.
Yeah, we can't assume it's nothing.
Let's see here. I think we have maybe the first card we give up, I think, is hit and run.
So if
we could give up
I feel like the correct block here is to block for 4, seeing that there's 3 CNCs in the bin. If it's
shakedown.
Yeah, if it's shakedown, that's we can't play around shakedown unless we literally give all our armor here. I think you just play around leave no witnesses and surgical. And if there's a shakedown, it is what it is. You have double blue, so it's not that bad. You can still play your hand out. So he can take one of your blues here. Is what it is. Or he takes your... Okay, that's fine as well. That's actually fine, considering you have a tunic counter.
So we have go again and 4 resources with tunic. And yeah.
Yeah, we actually want 5 here. So actually the tunic is not the solution here. The E-Pod is kind of the solution here.
We want 1.
Well, I think we just pitch the heart and play. I mean, play the hit and run and swing just to give him the opportunity to say no blocks if he really doesn't want to block.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is the you're right. E-Pod is correct.
Yeah. So we basically just say, do you want to give us a card? And looks like he doesn't, or he has a T-React.
That's fine.
Yep. T-React from hand. So
yes, from hand.
Yep.
You have chosen death.
Yep. So we can play out the overpower here and get in some damage. This is going to put us ahead on life here. And we are ahead on cards here by a couple. Maybe we're like 2 in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, just dumpling.
Yeah, no bracer here because we might draw a shunt or an oasis.
So yeah, the opponent has made a few misplays, but it's pretty even.
So far, we haven't really disagreed much on the piloting, so I think maybe the main source of our disagreements are going to be on the deck builds.
I think so, but that's never stopped Dorinthea players for it's a lot of it is like being like, what does a Dorinthea player in Toronto do? Like it gets a little bit warped.
Okay, so we're gonna get back CNC, I presume. And which card are you gonna check away?
I guess Valor, because we have 2.
Yeah. The glistening steel blade, I guess, gives him an opportunity to make a mistake, especially late game when they have no D-Rex. Okay, so they have chosen Wither to go into the arsenal.
What?
They just need a contract card, right? So we have to ask the question: why did they not grab Isolate?
Because they have, I guess, a +3
to block 6. That my first instinct is that that's just a misplay. The second instinct is that they want you to block for 6 here.
Yeah,
meaning they don't have anything. That
I'm sensing a 4 here, which means I can just sink it.
Yeah.
If I choose.
Even if it's
that's fine. I don't even block that. I don't think.
Uh, double frailty makes your CNC not. Oh, I guess he can get the flick knives back with the silver, right? That's one thing I forgot about. So he does actually have 3 block here. No, he can't. Didn't he destroy his flick knives? Oh, he
No, I
destroyed.
used
He
it as
just.
a
Oh,
reaction.
oh,
He
he just
destroyed
he
his
destroyed his
spider bite.
dagger. My bad. My bad. My bad. My bad. Okay.
So here's a like, yeah,
I
listening is such a ruse here, and
I
uh,
yeah. So
people
you're
freak out. People freak out around this card.
he
They go,
knows you have CNC
actually,
in the arsenal. That's the thing, though.
oh yeah, true. So it's fine.
So is this going to be tunic
Take a card.
CNC and then? I mean, the beautiful thing here is that he only has 1 armor, so it's going to be armor block this and then 2 card block CNC, or don't block this, give you a counter, and then armor block plus card on CNC. So
I actually love getting frailty in this matchup, which sounds backwards, but it's
that,
like
that
how many blood rot damage did I not take because they're all focused on giving me.
wow,
I don't know why he's doing this.
that is not how you do it, chat. Okay. Well, he should know that this is coming, so I expect a flick knives plus card block or 2 card block here. Okay. So he wants to. So he's okay. So he's
Yeah,
gonna.
that could have been 4 blood rot damage that I would have had to worry about.
Okay, so he's gonna swap something in here, but it doesn't really
Hmm.
matter because he's used
I
all
think
3
we pass.
shakedowns. He's used all 3 CNCs. So this is almost certainly a 4 power. So the beautiful thing is that like the redundancy of the Azuri deck is actually not as high as the redundancy of the Dory deck. So
I kind of want to mitigate some damage.
yeah, mitigating damage here is definitely the correct play here. Um,
Do we sync anything?
I would say no because
Yeah, I don't think so.
the your turn is just spoil sharpen swing. He's gonna block, even though he if your opponent is really clever, they're gonna notice you don't have enough pitch for a second swing. But yeah, but I
I'll
mean you
have
could
enough pitch, but I
yeah
don't plan
yeah
to
yeah
pitch the
yeah
Oasis.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, and see, perfect, beautiful frailty. I love it. Give me all the frailty.
still coming in for a break point here.
Yeah, it doesn't. 2 frailty didn't even help the breakpoints last turn.
Yeah. So we're moving on to the second stage of the game now, where it's turn 15. Remember, the very first card we pitched was Remembrance, so we're going to be keeping an eye out for that. That should appear in the next 4 turns or so.
I don't think I shuffled.
You did not.
So I might have shuffled at the
No,
beginning of the
you
game. Yeah.
pitched the Singing Steelblade, or sorry, you pitched the route, played Singing Steelblade, shuffled, then the Remembrance went to the bottom.
Yep.
Yep.
But this was a 70 card deck. This was so
Yeah,
we're
so
still a few.
we're probably several turns out. At minimum, probably 4. Okay, so Frailty Trap here gonna be kind of annoying, but we still hit him. I
Good
think we
swing for 1. I just want
uh,
our
yeah
arsenal, to be honest.
yeah yep. We're also getting to a point where so this is a thought I didn't quite finish, is that the Azuri's options now are actually pretty limited because they no longer have their power cards, no longer have CNC, no longer have shakedown. They've used 2 or 3 surgicals at this point. We've seen
Touch.
several death touches. We've seen a leave no witnesses as well.
I can straight up pass. With this hand, I don't have to use my brain.
Yep. Doesn't matter what this is. Yep. So we could just Oasis pitching whatever you want to pitch. It doesn't. Eh. I would like to Arsenal the Oasis later. So maybe pitching the. Do you have a glint left in your deck? If you.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, there's
Oh
2
no, I
there.
don't.
So I would probably just
Let's pitch the glint.
yeah
Yeah.
pitch the glint and then just play
And
out
we're
this.
gaining life. We're
Yep.
gaining life, y'all.
Yep. So we can play supremacy, bluff that we have a something.
People freak out. He'll probably give me at least 2 cards, and then well, there's nothing. There's no follow up.
Yep.
The draw is probably irrelevant. I mean, if he hits, I could go. That's a hit. I go for bolters.
Yeah, I would do it. If he, I would see what I draw first and then decide.
Yeah.
But I think it would be totally fine.
Yeah, I've learned a lot more patient play lately.
Yep. Especially when they have this many D-reacts, like you just the first cycle is just a formality. And yeah. There's a win con there. We have Iron Song Determination. Nice. Okay,
Nice.
another isolate. Doesn't really matter here.
What would we want to do? At 18, I'm inclined to just push for 6 because every time we push for 6 is very dangerous for them. And just remain patient, and then maybe pitch determination, or we could do determination valor and with these 3 resources if we want to. Because we're just gonna pass here anyway.
Yes, we're gonna see what he does. I mean, if we need to, we can Oasis this, but if this is Leave No Witnesses, we do need to Oasis this. Yep. Okay, so it is. Okay, so
Leave No Witnesses basically says Dorinthea gains 1 life.
Yep, in this situation. So I think we want to just put the determination back in our deck, right? And then just pitch Singing Steel Blade Swing, play Stroke of Foresight.
With the tunic resource, we could go Valor, Determination, 7 dominate. They have no armor.
Yeah.
But they could have defense react still. But they don't have like, could they cover 7 dominate with defense reacts?
They can't.
I'm inclined to pitch the stroke here.
Yeah, that seems fine. Yeah.
And we're gaining life.
Yep.
That's
So that's
what
that is a.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So you've gained like 4 or 5 life this game. That's quite interesting.
1,
triple
2,
Oasis.
3.
And
yeah, 3 Oasis.
This is actually why Dorinthea is literally like the second or third most popular Heart of Fendel user, is because she is one of the heroes that manipulates the life total the best.
It does so much work, and yeah, I'm manipulating life totals hard, like all the time.
And it's this is actually why I think Skullcap is actually totally fine for Dory as well.
Yeah, I was on Skullcap by choice for a long time, but Skullcap can just turn a red into a blue, get you resources. So that's like that's hard to give up.
Yep. So this has to be a 0 for 4 D react, which I think they're actually pretty much out of them yet. If I had to guess, there's a Fate, there's a Sync. There's 2, 2, 3. Yeah, they're out. There's 3, 3 of both. So this basically isn't being stopped. And your opponent is starting to block with a bunch of stealth cards, which indicates they are on second cycle. There's the Remembrance.
Finally.
Yep. So we are back to our pitch stack now.
So we have 3 CNCs, so we can play Remembrance as we like. I want to go back to playing defense because that's nice and safe.
I think it's totally fine to play defense here. So the question is, what are you going to Remembrance back? Most likely Valor.
I like taking back CNC because I think we can actually fatigue them.
So doesn't Valor also get 2 cards for 1 card?
That's true. It definitely does.
It also gives them the option.
They have the choice not to give up. Give them up. But if they don't Arsenal, then CNC is just not great. I'm just deciding, do I block with spoils or overpower? I want to get rid of overpower. Well, hold on. Let's see. 1 route, 1 OP, 2 OP.
I mean, I don't think
we're out of routes and overpowers, so this could close the game for us.
I think blocking with spoils is fine here because you have a Twinning Blade already in the graveyard. So this actually is going to appear. Okay, so why are you using this now instead of later? You can bluff an extra
Just to
card.
get. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They already seen it.
Yeah.
uh,
So I was about to say
I
this looks very threatening, right? Because you're holding two cards of swinging. If they're paying attention really carefully, they'll know that the glint is on the bottom. So
um, I think we just do this.
yes, I believe this is the only play here.
Because then, honestly, at this point, I'm just probably playing fatigue with
Correct.
this board.
Yes, that's the correct way to play this out. Whether or not
Story
that's interesting or
fatigue.
not doesn't matter. That's the correct way to play this.
It
Um,
feels kind of gross. It feels a little, but
well,
it's
I
fine.
mean, this matchup, the Azuri actually has a pretty massive advantage if you're playing like very aggressively into them because they're disruptive and they're defensive, and then you just lose a bunch of health. You run into a D-react, and then you're sad. So playing it slowly is definitely the way to go here.
Seems like a good bolters.
Yeah, this basically, if they're blocking with two more cards, they're definitely being able to be fatigued here.
And this is like kind of almost a perfect case study. It's like, so we're all the Dory players are afraid of defense reactions. We all felt that struggle. So it's like, well, what do you do? It's like, this is pretty much what you do.
You just wait till, yeah. So it
You
doesn't
just
matter what this is.
watch and wait.
Yep. So you can heart shunt and then play out the precision or play out the dawn blade. Okay, this has no
Um,
effects, but it's still dealing damage, so I think we block it.
well, we could gain one life by taking the damage.
We could, but then our play is awful, right?
Whoops, whoops, misclick.
Yeah, I think I would shunt here just to,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just to trade a power card for their power card, which is a good situation when you're up 13 cards here. The fact that this is coming in for a breakpoint is also really, really, really tough for them to deal with. So your opponent not having attack reacts, not having shreds, eradicate, stuff like that, definitely made this easier.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing around them, but the fact that they didn't, after a while, we just knew that they were never coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, it wasn't really that hard to run them out of threats. And they technically have like extra yellow threats.
Yep.
So we can go to 10.
Can I think you just let them have it and just arsenal a card? Their turn is going to be so bad that your 5 card hand is going to break through.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
no disruption that they can present other than like raw leave no witnesses.
Okay, we have, uh, should we
Yeah.
go Spirit Pummel?
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. We have
Yeah.
this is a rare play here, boys.
This is the only play you only see this with my list. This is
Yep.
the only place
Yeah.
you can get this content.
Yep.
Oh, you'd like to take 3?
Mm, nope. So the ideal
Oh,
situation is actually they block with 6 here because this means
oh, you
they
don't
lose
want to
the
take damage.
maximum amount of cards here. Oh man.
This is not a meme list, everybody. This is my real list. We're only running 2 Final Spirit.
Basil
We're not.
takes us to tournaments, guys.
I do, and
It is
when I
sleeved
play,
up.
it is.
Mm-hmm. All right,
I just
so
have to
is
play
this the
better sometimes.
is this the final leave no witnesses, or did they already play all of them? I think they.
Hmm. We could just block 3 armor and 3 thing.
Yeah,
Or
they're pretty much out of options.
it almost doesn't
It
matter.
almost doesn't matter here.
But we could block just with the crown and another card
Yeah, that
if
seems
we want
fine.
to be
I think that's
super
fine.
safe.
Yeah.
I like being safe in this matchup. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we give up? I want to give this up now. This is like probably not doing anything.
Sure.
Oh no, Death Edge.
That's fine. Take one. Get a
Frailty.
frailty, most likely.
Get a frailty, might as or inertia.
Hmm.
Does that change things? Probably.
No, it doesn't. You just play the Valor Supremacy, rip 3 cards from their hand, then move on with life. So,
Anytime they
so that.
don't give me a blood rod, I'm basically gaining
Yep.
2 life. That's the way I
So,
see it.
so now that this game is basically over, I think this is actually a very good point to illustrate for people. Is that you'll actually remain on card parity with most defensive decks for the first cycle. Like, it may look like, oh, they've used 40 cards, I've used 40 cards, oh no. But then you're suddenly going to get a spike in efficiency once you get to second cycle because they start having to overblock things.
Oh lord, they're actually fatigued. I just realized.
Yep, they're out of cards. So it does not matter here. They can take damage here. The shunt in the arsenal is the golden ticket to the W.
And yeah, right till the end of the game, we're reactions for days. Nothing's bothering us here. I'm hoping I can just pummel Pursuit of Knowledge next turn.
Why not? I don't think he has anything he can switch in anyways at this point. Oh, he does. Sure.
Okay.
Right. That is a thing that can happen, right?
You can't. You are allowed to.
You
That
are
is a
allowed to
valid
do that.
play.
Oh
That is
man.
not against the rules.
Yep. And
This
now
is
you
such
bring.
a. It's a pretty memey play.
What a way to get his last card out of hand.
And we end the game with this fresh
With
6
2
cards.
pairs. Yep. 2 pair.
So many options. I guess he's just dead.
All right, so let's look at the end game stats here a little bit, and so 24 turns.
That's what I'm used to.
That's about
I'm
right.
used to it at this
Yeah.
point.
Yep. So yeah, I mean it's. I think we already said a lot during the game about what we thought and felt. So I guess the main thing I like to look at is cards left. So see if there were any turns where you were keeping cards for no reason. There was 1 turn, so that's totally fine. Yep. So that means you played efficiently.
What other stats do you like to look at?
I mean that's the first one I normally look at. The other
They
stats are
used
more
to have
useful.
different stats in the legacy client too.
Yes, they did. But that's fine. Okay, so let's see if we can play another game. See if we can get an aggro matchup.
Right.
That might be.
Yeah, that was a while, but
That was a grind.
you really have to be like very surgical and be prepared to play attrition with this game. Like from my perspective, from my perspective, it's like that is just the norm. That's what Flesh and Blood is for me. It's very rare that you play aggro these days.
Mm-hmm.
And let's make it private. Or not private. Let's make it
so
competitive.
the way I found gets the best is to say Ranger please, and then all the Lexis show up when you say Ranger please.
All the Lexis.
Yep. this is how I knew going to Pro Tour 3 that Azalea was not going to be a deck, is because I kept, when I was practicing, I kept on putting Ranger Please, and
With
I
all
played
Lexi.
and I played against 19 Lexis and one Azalea. This is how I knew Lexi was going to be the most played deck.
Yeah, I feel like our Lexi matchup's pretty okay. The thing with my list is like the main deck is strictly aggro and the sideboard is strictly like
Mm-hmm.
mostly defensive. The popper is
Yep.
technically like a defensive card.
Yep. So several differences between your list and my list. You running the CNC, so you're slightly weaker to Codex, in my opinion. You have several no blocks in Heart and Epot. In my list, I run 180 block. You have some 2 blocks as well, and you're gonna have to keep 5 card or 4 card hands to use a decent amount of your pumps here. So that's kind of what I feel like.
Yeah, that's
And you,
correct. Sometimes
yeah.
you have a zero cost pump, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have a zero cost go again, and that's what lets you do the true the three resource turn. But
the
yeah,
the thing is, I don't think blue hit and run, stroke of foresight, and a blue is a good hand, because you're getting 9 or 10 value out of it, right? So you're getting 3 from the first hit, 3 from the pump, 3 from the second hit.
yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
that's 9 value from 3 cards plus a +1 counter. Okay, so this is the 60 you would run.
Yeah, just this is straight up.
Okay, first of all, why did this Lexi choose to go first?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I
this is
thought
why.
doesn't Lexi want to go
Oh,
first?
oh, jeez, what is
Oh, we
this?
got another weird
No,
one.
we got a mask of militia. What in the world is this? So they run
Is
one
this
arrow in the
snapshot?
deck. Normally, when you see mask of malicious manifestations, that's the Riptide cheesing you with nourishing
Oh
emptiness list.
gosh. And all they did was Arsenal pass. What is going on here? Hmm. Do we CNC or do we?
I think I'm wondering why they didn't break the mask on turn 0. That means their opening hand had the arrow.
Is this? I don't know this list. Do they run one arrow?
I've seen this list in the Riptide version. I haven't. So my guess is that they have an arrow that they want to reuse a lot, and they have
I think
pumped.
let's do CNC then.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have one arrow that they're going to reuse, like Endless Arrow, and their deck is all pumps. Like,
That is
like
this is
literally
really interesting.
40 pumps, some recycling, like Memorial Ground, some blues, and like an Endless Arrow or something. That's what, if I had to guess, that's what this deck is.
You do that.
Yep, I think that's fine. Yep. Okay, so he's running Frostlock, which means the malicious manifestations would not hit. Okay, so I don't know what the hell's going on.
This is not your grandma's
Yeah.
Lexi list.
Okay, so well, this is gonna teach us to think on our feet here. This will be very interesting at the very least. Okay, so your Arsenal Polar
Polar
Blast. Okay.
blast. We're getting some weird. We're
Okay,
seeing
so so
weird lists
so this
today.
so when you see Shock Charmers plus uh okay, you know what? I think I know what I think I know what this is. I think I know what this is.
I have
So
no clue.
this is Ice Death Dealer Lexi that is running Perch Grapplers and Mask simply for the armor.
Oh,
Because if they ran New Horizons, they'd blow up their own arsenal, right?
um,
So they just want 3 armor here. So this is
I think we're racing right, and
against
I
Death
think
Dealer
I can.
Lexi. The correct way to play this is you shove your armor in front of something on a very important turn and you use it to take tempo. So you kind of wait for the correct hand and then you deny frostbites with your armor. And I do think being aggressive is generally fine. However, things like this is going to have to be blocked generally. Okay, so he's emptied his whole hand. So this is
There's
threatening
no
Shock
fear.
Charmers. There was no fuse.
I don't think so.
You're right. There was no fuse, but Polar Blast is still there, right? So if this hits, that's going to be. Nope. Okay, that's not. That's. I'm thinking about Ice Quick. Polar Blast is
Yeah,
fine.
that's this
Yeah.
one
So
just gave
so
it dominate.
yeah. So this
I
is
think we
just vanilla.
pass here.
Yeah, this is just vanilla damage here.
Yeah, we're good. It's a little hard to tell sometimes. I gotta be like with
Mm-hmm.
the.
So we're just going to take 5 here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I like this hand.
So remember we have a
Oh
frostbite
wait,
here.
we can't afford everything.
So we would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we can't support everything here. So I think
But we have two blues, so we don't have to think that
yeah,
hard.
yeah. I think you just try to get over with the stroke of foresight. If not, whatever. If this gets shut down, it gets at least you're going to get reprise on the stroke of foresight, so you could actually cycle the hit and run into a yellow or blue, and then play the pursuit.
We almost had the pursuit for 7, but not quite.
Yeah. Okay, so he didn't
Uh,
take it, or he did take it, so he didn't. He wants to keep
yeah.
his hand. So now we can this into
Okay.
bracer into swing, and he's sad.
That's good for us.
Yep. So the reason why, so it's this deck is all about using your armor. This matchup, let me be very clear. The Death Dealer Shock Charmers Ice Lexi matchup, not Lexi in general. It's all about using your armor at the correct spot.
So they kept 4 cards.
This hand looks decent.
I think I want to use refraction boulders at least on this
Yeah.
block.
So this is probably a turn where we're throwing our armor in front of this. Let's see his attack pattern first. So he activated Death Dealer. So the thing to note is that these lists almost never run Rain Razors, right? So
it is fused.
yes. So this is fused. So and he's gonna basically dump his hand into Shock Charmer activations. So we do need to block 8 here. So I think the correct way to block 8 is just with
I kind of want to give up the overpower.
yes, that's the
not going to get
lowest
played.
priority, and then courage and bolters obviously is second priority here. The question is it bracers or is it crown? I think it's bracers here because the crown can bail us out later. Yeah, and so he's just gonna have to arsenal, unless there's this guy's a crazy man running Razor Reflex, which I doubt it. Okay, so we basically used our armor for a pivot turn. Now we have to be really, really, really damn aggressive here. So
And if we use courage, we
we
could
can play.
go to 12.
We could go to I. So here's the thing: he has 3 armor and his deck. So, I feel like not using the courage here would be correct.
Yeah, same.
Uh,
But I like to
mainly,
consider
yeah, it's
how far you
definitely
can go.
yeah. It
Oh, we
is.
could have gone to 14.
We could have gone to. Oh right, because it's plus 2, right? Yep. I still don't think 14's enough, right? Because if we break courage, that makes him want to jam his armor and his whole hand. Especially considering we didn't have natural go again there. So here we have, yep, enough to play double stroke and then get an arsenal, which is great. Okay, so he's keeping his whole hand here, which is basically falling into a trap here. Mainly because we still have some armor left. Glint is a great pickup here. So again, we're gonna look to shut his turn down by throwing all of our armor in front of something, plus a card. And this hand is ridiculous. You have Twinning Blade still in your deck, right? So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a dead man here. This deck is pretty gimmicky, but Dory is actually fairly insulated. Her against this.
I almost struggle more against these like heavier tax builds. But I don't have that much experience into it.
The heavier tax builds, you have to identify what's going on very quickly. That's, remember, we were trying to figure out at the very beginning of the game, like as soon as we figured out what was going on, and it was really the helmet that threw us off, right? Until we realized, oh, it's just blocking for 1. Okay, is what it is, right? So 10 dominate here. On
this
hit
is going
many.
to hit.
This on hit many things, right? What's the on hit? Frostbite, and then
was it? So, did he play 2 ice?
I think he did, and then this is. So we're gonna have. Okay, so literally, what I think here, our best play, block with this supremacy and the crown. Get the glint out of it. See if we can draw enough blue to actually have a turn. Close to having enough blues to turn. We're going to get 3 frostbites from this attack. Possibly 3 more. Bumps everything to shock charm. 7 frostbite.
We're going to...
Yeah. We don't have to throw the brace. We're basically blocking with crown to get another card.
Yeah, so afford the tax, yeah.
So we could the supremacy. I don't need to block with the supremacy. It's actually just need to get a 5th and hope it's a blue.
I'm not trying to mitigate in this situation.
Yep.
Bridge 2 to offset some costs.
Exactly. So let's hope we draw. Now we actually play. Nice. So even if it dumps 2 blues shock charmers, we're good here. So the left basically tries this deck is basically trying to play 2 cards. If you block cards and then they give you a bunch of cards, then you basically time locked, right? So
yeah, playing mid range and C is not.
So 4 isn't even enough.
Nope. We just carry.
Yeah.
Like a Tuesday.
So we have enough for. I mean, it doesn't really matter here. Like,
I'm probably gonna glint. It's like we're gonna even draw another.
Yeah. So there was a. I think glint is.
So
there's another that could be made just to.
+2.
Yeah.
You could do glint.
Yeah.
See what they.
We'll see what they want to do. They're meant to use encourage there. It doesn't really matter here.
If I didn't draw the blue, I think it was just.
See the mask on the chain here.
I almost think rub for lethal here.
Yes, that if it's +7. Oh. Yeah.
I think I want to go for
I think you go for the red.
Because I don't think like that many defensive actions if
Yep. Give him back either one. I guess this is technically damage here. Okay, and so we got there.
We got there. Weird list, so I don't know how tuned necessarily, but it was good.
We're kind of in this dead period where I think messing.
Right? The finish.
Yeah, the next. So.
The first one was very good, and still, I think you could definitely run into it with lots of defense.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so this video is at 1:06. I think we'll wrap it up here. So, Basil for here.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's an honor to record with.
Yeah, I hope you got. Those were kind of some. But I hope sometimes just express your process on things. Helps you like your like play pattern. So I think verbalizing. I like to say like if you can't explain why you're doing something, you don't understand it. It
That's
seems
why I'm trying to answer questions, because it's like for my benefit too.
yeah,
Like, do I even know the answer? Answer hold up when I'll hear my answer.
exactly.
Part I'm running.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm just struggling with, I think, I inconsistent in real,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever I get something, I feel like off,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
along those lines, and I just make the wrong in real life
Yeah.
sometimes.
Playing Dory IRL, I think which the I prefer to play Dory is you play a little bit relaxed and a little catty with your opponent. Take things too serious. That also helps you kind of on things as well. You know, there might be more to you might be able to by just being kind of friendly, chit chatty with them. Makes the game much more interesting. That's why I love games if I can, or instead of online. There's always like the most I've had in like a couple months is people are yellow over and groaning. They're like, "What the heck is this, Josh?"
Yep,
It's
I've
tech. Yeah,
or a lot of people don't know what it does. It's pretty great.
it's like, oh, it's still the
But
turn. I messed up.
I can't for it. It's kind of like I think the trap card right now is
Yeah.
in trap it like it, but
So
I
allow
like it.
through is like +3 could kind of give you +5 depending on the situation. So
Could give you 5.
could give you 3, 4 depending on situation, right? I one of those cards I do, um, but it's a very, very, very high bar for one cost thing. And that bar is valor, spoil, and supremacy. So for group
The
combat points,
puncture really I like puncture a lot. You're probably not
yeah.
running it. And also
Mm-hmm.
cycling a card really high.
So
So I hope you
mm-hmm.
sometimes a card to get me to that life gain sooner.
I have actually started to think that kind of combining uh, this switch up Dory style plus the overpower style is actually probably better because if you include one puncture, one stroke of foresight, one out for blood, and then you kind of run my RTN list. Not only do you have extra tutor targets for Singing Steelblade, uh, it makes your list a little bit more ambiguous what you're doing, right? Because if you like block with out for blood and then they check your graveyard, they see the out for blood, it's like, huh, okay. So he does have some 1 for 3 pumps, right? So that
Yeah, you
might be
never know
the
what to expect to get
yeah.
from Dory in general.
That
We're all different.
it
Like it's not like a Briar list where it's
and,
like largely everyone's
yeah.
on the same list.
And I will say, like in general, I like to change 2 to 3 cards every single time I play, just because you don't want to be on the same list again and again and again and again. Um, that's like I said before, like if Dory's homogenized, that's actually very bad for the Dory community in general, right? If they know the 80 that you're on, it's actually really tough to beat, right?
Yeah, that can be tough. I'm pretty locked in on my 80 at this point, but it's like
It's a
where the
unique
list
80.
is about to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of things will change with the next set, so yeah.
The new specialization just
Mm-hmm.
feels a bit awkward. I think it's like a sideboard tech and that I don't really have space for, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The By the time people watch this, the Prism will be spoiled, so we'll see how like ward dependent and mitigation dependent they are, because they set Vambrace of Determination into the previous set, right, for a reason, in my opinion. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks for your
Yeah.
time, and yeah, So that,
Thank you as well. It was nice to hang out, just chill,
yep,
play some games.
exactly. All right. Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Take care.